Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Red Hour, where twice a week, I review a random episode. I messed up my intro. I throw chaos into Star Trek by reviewing a random episode. Uh, in today's episode is the Next Generation, season 4, episode 14, Clues. Yeah, I'm off my game today. Sorry, people, but it doesn't look like anybody's out there in the chat. Anyway, um, I just want to say something as I drink this. This is tea. I don't know that Gary from New Nerdrotic will ever come across this channel or ever watch this specific episode. But I'm going to say it anyway, just on the off chance that he does. He said the other day that tea is gay. And I say to you, sir, you are gay. Tea is not gay. Anyway, I don't know why I felt compelled to do that. I was just taking a sip of tea before the show started, and was reminded of that. So, and don't worry, I plan on super chatting him the same exact thing, probably whenever Forbidden Frontier comes back. And if you haven't seen Forbidden Frontier, it's on 6:30 Eastern Standard Time on Sundays, where they talk about ancient cultures and Art Bell type stuff, ghosts, aliens, any type of paranormal stuff. Also, check out the Y-Files if you haven't done that. If you're into that type of stuff, the Y-Files is your number one channel on YouTube to basically take up the mantle from Art Bell, who is the GOAT, of course. And, of course, there's also the X-Files, which Chris Carter borrowed heavily from Art Bell, and of course don't tell me the unsolved mysteries. Fuck, good lord. That was a tough pull. It shouldn't have been that tough, but it was. Anyway, okay, Clues. Let's get on with it. So the teaser is on the holodeck. It's Dixon Hill, Picard's favorite book, and Guinan shows up and is talking to the secretary, or Dixon Hill's secretary. She's claiming that she has an appointment, and the secretary says that he doesn't want to be disturbed. And I find this is ironic that last week's Strange New Worlds episode was a holodeck episode with a murder mystery. And it was kind of like Dixon Hill, but more like Elementary Dear Data or Our Man Bashir, a little bit of both. So I find it ironic that, the episode that I'm going to review starts off the same situation. Anyway, Guinan insists, barges into Dixon Hill's office, and there's Picard being held at gunpoint. And this guy's like, who are you? And he's like, oh, that's my cousin. And tells her to stick him up, and she's like, turns to Picard, like, what does that mean? He goes like this, and this is when Patrick Stewart was funny, and wasn't insisting on doing, action every second. This is more. Season 4 is like peak TNG, really. A lot of good episodes. Family. I don't remember the rest. I think Relics was around this time, maybe. Which again, not to beat a dead horse or anything, but Scotty in that episode seems like he'd never seen the holodeck before, whereas in the previous episode of Strange New Worlds, he's working on it. I went on a big long rant about that episode the other day, but I got my Paramount Plus back and everything is back in working order. So far so good. Anyway, Data calls in on the telephone, and tells him that there's an M-class planet detected in this nebula that they're surveying, and there's an energy fluctuation, and Picard wants to, and there's a wormhole there, and Picard wants to, check it out. And so they enter the wormhole, and after the wormhole, everybody's passed out, and that's the teaser. And there's your credits and roll theme song. So then they wake up, and Data is like the only one not affected by this, and he basically says that 30 seconds has passed, but they've traveled what should be like a day's travel, and that sets up like this mystery where they're trying to seconds has passed, and so anyway, there's no effect to the ship. There's no nothing wrong with the ship, but Crusher has some plants in her office, and so it sets up basically. This is like everybody's sort of on a shore leave type situation. Although they're not leaving the ship, they're just taking a day of like rest or vacation or something. That's why Picard is on the holodeck. And so Crusher had some sort of experiment going on where she's like growing moss and so she notices the moss has grown faster than it should have by one day, and she doesn't understand what's going on. So Picard sends out a probe, and the readings, meanwhile on the bridge, Picard sends out a probe, and the readings are doesn't show an M-class planet. It shows a different type of planet. So that's a mystery in itself. They were supposed to have seen an M-class planet. So then Crusher comes to Picard's ready room and shows him the moss. And that, again, harkens back to the zombie episode of Strange New Worlds where they're experimenting on moss. I don't know if that's probably a coincidence. I doubt that they looked at this episode and said, hey, why don't we do space moss, and turn it and it makes you into zombies, or they were inspired by this. I highly doubt that, not because I don't think I don't know how much these guys have actually watched Star Trek. It seems like Kristen Beyer probably does know a bit. And like I said, um, for everything that Stranger Worlds gets right, they get something wrong. And not to go relitigate that episode, um, it, it I just didn't like it. It was a mid-level. Um, there were things about it that I did like, and you know, because of that, I was called not a I'm not a fan by somebody, and that irritates me. Anyway, Crusher. So Picard at first is like, nah, the ship's. It's only been, even Data said it's only been like it was only 30 seconds, and she insists, and she's like, no, this moss. I'm telling you, this moss is grown a day. So, uh, Picard is okay. Okay, well, I'll listen to her. She's a respected friend. He doesn't say that, but you get the gist. So they're in the observation room, and Data has this hypothesis that it was some kind of physicist. I don't know. Says something, and he Picard asks Data to go check on something. So he leaves the room, and Picard's like, "Does anybody believe that?" And he basically, specifically, asking Geordi, and Geordi's like, "No, I don't believe it." For a bit, and they talk about checking the ship's chronometer, and seeing if a day had in fact passed, and they also want to check the transporter to see who the last person that transported in, and the deal with that. And then uh, uh, Crusher is talking to Picard in the corridor about how she can check things at like a cellular level, and because they check the last person that was in the transporter was part of like I think engineering team, because she's talking to Chief O'Brien, although he's the transporter chief, but whatever. And her cells have like aged a day, and so they send Data to Geordi to be inspected, and it turns out there's no problems with Data. There's nothing wrong. And then Troy feels a little dizzy on the bridge, and Picard's like, "Are you okay? Do you need to go to sick bay?" And she's like, "No, I'll just go to my quarters and get some rest." And Worf escorts her to her quarters, and she walks in and screams. And Worf like does a security override, goes in, and she's like, "Oh, I looked in the mirror and I saw my face, but it wasn't me. Something fell off, and she's kind of freaked out about that." And then Geordi is in Data's quarters, and he found something. So he calls in Picard, and basically Data had changed the results of the probe to where he uses like this planet from somewhere else and changes it to another planet. So it turns out it was like an M-class planet. And we have Gavin Blackburn here. Hello, Gavin. Welcome to the show. I normally don't do the like and subscribe crap because you know what to do if you want to like the. But apparently, from what I'm hearing, YouTube only counts views if there's like comments or something, or a like or something. So please like or comment, which Gavin Blackburn has already commented. I don't really get a whole lot of views anyway, but the views that I do get are appreciated, and hopefully one day, if I'm still doing this 6 months or a year from now, the channel will grow. I've already gained some subscribers in the past week or two, about 10, I think. So somebody likes, I guess some people like what I'm doing. Which I figured, it's kind of interesting because instead of going one episode, Next Generation all the way through the season, it's like you're jumping back and forth, and it's a little bit chaotic, but I kind of like it. I like it actually because it allows me to, first of all, I never know what episode it's going to be, and until I click the button, and then it's like, oh, I remember that episode, or I didn't like that episode, or maybe I found something that I didn't see the time before. Anyway, Data screwed around with the data. Data screwed around with the data, and the planet is not what they thought it was, so they send out another probe. Who else is here? Oh, it's just Gavin. It's like a box of chocolates. Yeah, right. Viewers will come. It's just time. Yeah. I mean, I've only been doing this for about a month. A little over a month. So, Worf's wrist... Turns out Worf's wrist was broken and was healed. So then they come to the conclusion that, okay, they were awake during this time period. They were conscious. Their memories were erased. And then the probe come back. The probe, the data from the probe comes back, and it turns out there was a M-class planet out there. And then at this time, Troy is like possessed by this alien. She's in her bed. Wouldn't be the first time she's in her bed and possessed by an alien. They sure do love doing that. Or is like, mind raped, or she becomes pregnant, and that episode I hate. God, I hate that. Let me just say, I don't like Troy episodes. I like Troy, generally speaking, as a character, especially when she's in her nightgown. But I don't think there's an episode of hers that this Troy focus that I like. Anyway, she's possessed by an alien. The alien comes to Data's quarters, and she's like, oh, your plan didn't work, and she has like this weird voice. If you've seen the episode, you know what I'm talking about. They basically, like, it's her voice, but they turn up the bass or whatever they did. They distort it. So Picard, is questioning Data again, and basically Data tells him, through the series of questions, he's like, you ordered me to lie to you. And then he explains what happened, and basically they ran into this group of aliens that are xenophobic, and they terraformed this planet, and basically created like this wormhole thing so that it will divert people away from their planet. And it's weird because they're like corporeal and non-corporeal at the same time, so they can I guess they have their own bodies, but they also can jump into somebody. I don't know. They don't really show the actual aliens, so and then Jordy's like, he's like, oh, that's why our beards didn't grow, because they put them in stasis. And he mentions his beard like a couple times in this episode, and it was just kind of funny. It's like, really, that's your big takeaway here? Because I know that if I shave, if a day goes by, I barely even notice any change, you know. But so Picard, you know, I don't have much to say. This is going to be a short episode. I don't have much to say about it. But anyway, let's just finish it off. Picard basically negotiates with the alien. The alien says that they're worthy of a do-over. Basically, I don't know why. I mean, why? I guess because Picard was nice to them. I guess. And he says, you know, what you have to do is not leave any clues behind, because this, you know, you left clues behind. Because of that, humans are naturally, you know, curious and want to solve the mystery. So, like I was talking about unsolved mysteries, you know, that's why so many people are interested in the Epstein files. That's why so many people are interested in the UFOs, the UAPs or whatever. I refuse to say UAP, just like Gary Neurotic. I agree with him on that. It's UFOs. I've been saying it for all my life, damn it. Go and change it now because you want to make it. I don't know why they changed it. So they do like a do-over, and it, you know, it works this time. And Picard tells them to send out a probe and put like a warning buoy near this area. So, you know, like I said, I don't have much to say about it. Of the fourth season, it's probably the weaker episodes. Is it better than the first or two seasons? Probably. It's a mid meh 5. I initially wrote 6, and I was like, nah. I gotta give it like 5.5. Because it's a single, you know, it's like straight down the middle. Especially compared to, I mean, now that we're in season 4, you know, which is peak, you know, 4, 5, and 6 is like peak TNG. I mean, I've seen better. I hate to say this, but I've seen better Strange New Worlds episodes. Have I seen better Discovery ones? I don't know. Troy's only useful for aliens, yeah. And even then, she gets it wrong a lot of time. So anyway, short episode today. Besides, I'm tired. I was up way too late last night. Wednesdays are my days off, so Tuesday's like my Friday. So I'm like out drinking and stuff. So let's see what the next episode is going to be. randomize it. What do we have? We have Deep Space Nine, episode 722, Tacking into the Wind. This one does not immediately come to mind. It's probably something about the end of the war. Maybe Ezri is involved. Don't know. I've seen them all, but I don't know. This is the very different filler episode. Thank you. That's the word that I was looking for. It's a filler episode. That's what you get. And you know what, though? Kevin Blackburn and whoever else is out there, I would take a filler episode with 26 seasons, but when they do like 10 episodes and there's a filler episode, like on Discovery, it's no bueno. You need every 10 every episode needs to be like top, at least a 7 or above. But they don't do that. This season of Strange New Worlds, there's 10 episodes, and I think 3 or 4 of them are like jokey. So they're not even doing like, they're not going to Strange New Worlds. It's so irritating. God. Anyway, I'm the dead man, and this is the Red Hour. And I want to thank Gavin Blackburn for showing up tonight, and I want to thank anybody that's lurking. I want to thank anybody that sees this in the future. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for watching. I will be back on Sunday with Deep Space Nine. Yes, filler is fine in a 26 episode season. Yeah, 10 episodes. I remember Discovery first season had 15 episodes, and I think the Americans had like 13. Breaking Bad had like 13. It needs to be more than 10. Maybe not 26, but more than 10. Anyway, thank you once again. I will see you.